We've just watched a convincing victory in Vancouver for Canada, the co-host of the tournament, 6-0.
This Canadian team just changed the conversation. A team that arrived at this World Cup without a single Men's World Cup victory. A team that drew their opening match and was expected to simply enjoy the tournament as a host nation and have nothing else to show for it, just produced the biggest win in Canada's World Cup history.
To see a performance like that, obviously great commitment behind that Canada side in front of their own supporters in Vancouver. I love to see that.
6 goals, 33 shots, 19 corners, nearly 80% possession. Jonathan David scored a hat-trick, Cyle Larin kept breaking records, Qatar finished with 9 men, and by the final whistle, Canada looked less like a host nation and more like a team nobody wants to face. But the scoreline only tells part of the story, because this wasn't just about 6 goals, it was about the intensity of Jesse Marsch's system, the growing partnership between David and Larin, the tactical dominance that overwhelmed Qatar long before the red cards arrived, and the heartbreaking injury to Ismail Kone that suddenly cast a shadow over the greatest night in Canadian football history. So are we witnessing a good home team enjoying a moment? Or is Canada becoming the surprise team of the 2026 World Cup? Because once you look beyond the goals, the records, and the historic victory, a much bigger picture begins to emerge. This is exactly why the World Cup suddenly has a Canada problem.
Canada came into 2026 as one of 3 host nations, but nobody was particularly scared of them. The history just wasn't there. Before this tournament, they played 2 World Cups, 1986 and 2022, and lost every match. No win, no point, not much evidence they could turn home soil into something dangerous. So when they opened with a 1-1 draw against Bosnia in Toronto, most people filed it under nice moment, small step. Yes, it was Canada's first ever World Cup point. Yes, Cyle Larin grabbed the equaliser after Lukic had put Bosnia ahead from a corner, but the performance still came with a question attached. Canada could control games, but could they actually punish people? Against Qatar in Vancouver, they answered that pretty emphatically. First minute actually belonged to Qatar. Homam Al-Amin delivering a dangerous ball to the back post, Ed Milson Jr. getting a proper chance to shock BC place early, volley coming off badly and drifting wide. Brief scare, quickly forgotten. After that, Canada took over completely. The midfield and front 2 tightened up their distances, the ball started moving quickly into wide areas, especially down the right, where Buchanan and Johnston kept forcing Qatar backward, and once the rhythm clicked, Qatar simply couldn't handle the speed, the aggression, or Canada's reactions to second balls. 16th minute, Jonathan David forced the goalkeeper into a save, and Larin was already at the rebound. That's exactly what Larin brings. He's not always the flashiest name in the room, but he pins centre-backs, attacks the 6-yard box, and turns loose balls into goals. He'd rescued Canada against Bosnia, now he was giving them control against Qatar. Then came the goal that shifted this from confidence into actual belief. 29th minute, David caught a bouncing ball and smashed a right-footed volley past Abu Nada. Not just important, genuinely beautiful. David is Canada's most intelligent forward, the kind who reads situations before they fully developed, but against Qatar, his movement finally came with the finish attached. He wasn't just drifting between lines anymore, he was arriving in the right places and doing damage. Homam Ahmed then got sent off in the 33rd minute for bringing down Buchanan outside the box, and yes, that made Qatar's evening significantly harder, but Canada were already winning 2-0 up when it happened. They were already winning the physical battles, already creating the better chances, and Buchanan was already making Qatar's left side look like an absolute nightmare to defend. The red card widened the gap, it didn't create it. Before half-time, Larin met another delivery. The keeper reacted, David was first to it again. 3-0. contest over before the break. But here's the thing that actually matters beyond the scoreline. Davies didn't even play. Canada's biggest star, the player whose name gets mentioned every time someone talks about this team, was absent. Bombito didn't start either, and still Canada produced the biggest result in their men's World Cup history. That's a genuinely different team from what people thought they were watching. The front two now has real balance. Larin is the fixed penalty box presence, the one who makes life uncomfortable for centre-backs and reacts when things spill loose. David is the timing and intelligence, finding the space Larin's movement creates. One occupies defenders, the other punishes what they leave behind. Against Bosnia, Larin gave Canada survival. Against Qatar, the two of them together gave Canada authority. That's why Vancouver changed the conversation. This wasn't just a host nation enjoying a warm crowd on a good night. This was a team that everyone had quietly underrated because of their World Cup record, suddenly playing with the kind of belief that belongs to sides who think they can go deep.
People saw the Bosnia draw and assumed Canada would be satisfied just making the knockouts. Vancouver said something completely different. Canada aren't here just to be in their own World Cup. They're here to make someone else's tournament a very uncomfortable experience. Canada didn't beat Qatar because the match got out of hand. They beat Qatar because they made it get out of hand. That's the actual difference. From the first whistle, the idea was clear. Press high, attack fast, force Qatar into rush divisions, and keep the game moving at a pace their opponents couldn't handle. Canada lined up in a 4-4-2, but without the ball, it looked far more aggressive than that. David and Larin pressed onto Qatar's centre-backs, Eustaquio and Cohn stepped up behind them, and the wide players were ready to jump on fullbacks the moment the ball went sideways. Not passive defending, pressure with a plan. Qatar's only real moment came inside the first minute, Edmilson Jr. finding space at the back post and failing to connect properly with the volley. After that, Canada just took over, squeezed the pitch, won every second ball, and turned nearly every loose Qatar touch into another attacking wave. The numbers tell you everything. 79% possession, 10 shots on goal, 4.46 expected goals, 514 accurate passes for Canada. Qatar finished with 21% possession, 0 shots on goal, and 0.18 expected goals. That's not a fortunate result, that's one team suffocating another in every department simultaneously. The main weapon was Canada's right side. Buchanan was the one making Qatar's life genuinely miserable before the scoreline even turned embarrassing. Every time he got the ball, he attacked immediately. No slowing down, not waiting for Qatar to reset, straight at Homam Ahmed, forcing him backward, putting him in situations where one bad decision would crack the whole defensive line open. That pressure finally broke Qatar in the 33rd minute. Buchanan ran beyond Ahmed, who pulled him down just outside the box. After VAR review, it went from a penalty in yellow to a free kick and straight red. But the important detail is Buchanan didn't just benefit from Qatar losing their head, he caused it. Defenders make desperate decisions when they spend the whole match facing their own goal, and he kept making sure that's exactly where Ahmed was looking. Behind Buchanan, Johnston gave the right side its intelligence, not just sitting wide and crossing from deep, he varied everything. Overlapping to stretch the line one moment, tucking into the half space to give Buchanan an option the next, arriving late into the box when Qatar's shape had already been pulled apart. His timing was just as important as his delivery. He kept appearing in areas Qatar couldn't easily track.
So the structure worked perfectly. Buchanan created the panic, Johnston created the angles, David and Larin attacked whatever space opened up, and Eustaquio kept feeding the machine from midfield. The first goal was pure pressure. Canada forced it into the danger area, David's effort was saved, Larin reacted first to the rebound. The second came because Canada kept bodies around the box and David was ready when the ball dropped. The third was another penalty box scramble, Larin attacking the first ball, David alive for the second action. That's Marsch football when it clicks. Not slow possession for the sake of it, but using possession to sustain pressure, using pressure to force mistakes, and using those mistakes to create fast chances before anyone can breathe. By half-time, it was 3-0 and the contest was basically over. Then came the moment that briefly turned the greatest night in Canadian men's World Cup history into something painful.
Early in the second half, Kone went into a challenge with Asim Modibo. The contact was ugly and the reaction said everything before the replay even aired. Canadian players immediately surrounding him, hands on heads, stadium going quiet. Modibo got stretchered off, Kone the shaken, and the football suddenly felt secondary. Modibo's yellow was upgraded to red after review, leaving Qatar with 9 men, but nobody was really thinking about that for a few minutes. Kone mattered beyond just being a name in the starting 11. He gave Canada legs, aggression, and the ability to carry from deep and immediately flip defensive actions into attacks. Losing him changes the midfield balance going forward, especially if Marsch wants to keep playing at this intensity. Then Nathan Saliba came on and gave the Knights one of its best images. 64th minute, he curled a free kick around the wall, 4-0, and instead of making it about himself, he held up Kone's shirt. Clean moment. Substitute replaces injured teammate, scores in a World Cup, immediately gives the goal back to him. Canada didn't stop there either. Schaffelberg's pressing led to Mohamed Manai's own goal in the 75th, and David completed his hat-trick in stoppage time after Saliba's effort fell right into his path. 6 goals, full time. But the final score is only part of what happened here. Canada didn't sit back and nick goals. They pressed Qatar into errors, attacked the same weak side relentlessly, created volume, controlled territory, turned their right flank into a non-stop problem, and even after Kone went off and the mood shifted, kept enough focus to see it through properly. That's why this result is bigger than 6 goals. It showed Canada have a real identity under Marsch. Not just home energy, not just individual talent, an actual system. And in tournament football, once a host nation finds a system that works, confidence has the habit of becoming a very dangerous thing very quickly. 4 points from 2 games, their first ever World Cup victory, a Jonathan David hat-trick, a strike partnership that keeps delivering, a tactical identity that's becoming clearer by the match, and the kind of belief that only comes from doing it all in front of your own people, in your own country, with a crowd that treats every goal like a national holiday. That's why Canada suddenly feels different from the team people expected to see. Top the group, and they could earn a round 32 match on home soil, familiar surroundings, a hostile atmosphere for whoever walks in, and a fan base that's been waiting their entire lives for a moment like this. That combination does something to teams. It lifts them past what the numbers suggest they should be capable of. We've seen this before. Morocco in 2022 going further than anyone predicted with an entire continent behind them. Croatia in 2018 reaching a final nobody saw coming. South Korea in 2002 eliminating giants on home turf. Every World Cup produces one team that discovers something powerful at exactly the right moment and refuses to let it go. Canada aren't heading to the final, let's be honest about that, but they are no longer just a host nation hoping to make a decent impression and bow out gracefully. The real warning sign isn't that they beat Qatar 6-0, it's that they played like they fully expected to. No surprise in their own body language, no shock at the scoreline, just a team executing a plan with the confidence of a side that believes it belongs somewhere deeper in this tournament. And if that belief survives the loss of Kone and follows them into the knockout rounds, Canada's greatest achievement at this World Cup might not end up being their first ever victory. It might be becoming the team that nobody, absolutely nobody, wants to face next.